Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker, and welcome to episode 114. Negotiating requires healthy communication skills. So as you know, all month we've been getting into learning how to negotiate in healthy ways in our close relationships, in our work relationships, in our community, and how this skill draws upon so many of the other growth areas we've been talking about on the show. Last week, we talked about how you may not have learned how to negotiate well because your first environments taught you so much, for better or for worse. Well, today I want to dive into just how important it is to learn, know, and practice healthy communication skills so that we can learn how to negotiate well with those we care about. So we can learn how to ask for what we need, communicate to them in loving, grounded, calm ways, what we're willing and not willing to do, and also to be able to hear their requests and their no. A lot of this, if you've been listening to the show, you should already know. If anything is brand new, I encourage you to dive in to the pieces that feel unfamiliar to you and or are familiar, but you know you really struggle with. We can't expect to just show up and know how to ask for what we need unless we're already able to do that. And behind those requests for what we need are a lot of guiding principles of self-love, self-care, healthy boundaries, basic rights in our relationships, emotional maturity, and vulnerability. So vulnerability is the one I want to begin with here. And it may be assumed, but I'm not sure if vulnerability is so well understood by all of us. I think there can be some misperceptions. A lot of times we think vulnerability is a 4-letter word. But maybe it's not a good thing. Maybe the last time or times you were vulnerable, you were hurt. So I can certainly understand your resistance, perhaps, to wanting to be vulnerable. The funny thing is, we always want the other person to be open and kind and communicative and emotionally honest. But sometimes it can be a hell of a lot harder for us to do that. Remember, if you struggle with that, there are valid reasons. There are contextual reasons why. And it is so changeable. So one of the biggest ways to practice vulnerability is the obvious using I statements, not focusing on the other person, but letting them know a little bit more about you, letting them in. Emotional intimacy is into me see. Keep the focus on I statements, not questions with why are you in it directed at them, because they're not really questions like we've talked about before. They're judgmental statements. The connotation is what's wrong with you. So keep the focus on self, on yourself. You're going to be expressing things like I need to talk to you about something that happened today. I need your help. I need some time. I need some space. I need some support. I need some listening from you. I need you to hear me. I feel hurt when you talk to me that way. I feel sad when you're away for long periods of time. I feel great when we can spend time together like this. I feel loved when you do things for me or come up and give me a hug. I would love it if we could figure out how to split up all the chores this week. I would love it if we could go have some fun together. I would love it if you could pick up your clothes off the floor. I would love it if we could figure out a way to go visit your family that I could handle, that honors what I need as well. Or maybe we say things like, it's great when you clean up the kitchen. It's awesome. Thank you. It's great when we can just hang out together. It's great when you tell me what you need and I don't have to guess. Or maybe there are some boundary statements like, I simply can't do that today, but I can certainly take care of it by Friday. I know you need that done. I need to say no to that, unfortunately. That doesn't work for me. Now see, I love the expression that doesn't work for me because that's for me. That can imply you can think and feel whatever you want about that, and that's okay. That's you. But for me, it doesn't work. And there's no judgment against the other person for asking for that. And that is so key. No matter what you think of it inside, you are not expressing judgment like there's anything less than about that person for asking for that. Thank you for asking, but I'd rather do this alone. Or I hear what you're asking and I get it. Hey, let me think about it and I'll give you an answer tomorrow. I'll be sure to get back to you. I won't leave this hanging. So I statements expressing the truth about you, what you think, what you feel, what you need, what you are willing and not willing to do, without anger, without frustration, without gritted teeth, without resentment, and there's no snarky. That's really important. Another big thing is don't be vague. If you want to negotiate well, we don't want to put eggshells on the floor, and we don't want to create confusion for the other person. It's very vulnerable, in other words, to be specific, because when we put something specific out there, we open ourselves up to ridicule and attack like we've talked about here before. Specific also, if I'm asking you for something, it makes me own it. Like, this is real. I'm actually asking you for this exact thing. I'm not being vague. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm not hoping you'll guess. For example, I get upset when you leave the kitchen counter a mess, and I would love it if we could both promise to clean up after ourselves. That would be great. So it's better to keep the focus on what you feel and need. Now, you can think X, Y, and Z about them, but I want you to practice keeping that separate. Set aside. You're not denying it. I'm not asking you to be Pollyanna and deny that maybe someone's doing some shitty stuff. Maybe they're being lazy. Maybe you think they're being selfish. That's okay. But do you get into an argument with them about that? Maybe. I would first try to keep it to it, the solution, the specific behavior. I need you to change this. Because I want you to think for a moment, when have you been approached by someone in either way? Either the always or never in a very shaming statement to you, and how much did you want to change? Versus when someone came up to you and asked you specifically, hey, can you do this differently? Weren't you more motivated to do that thing differently? And didn't you think that they thought you were a good person? They just need you to tweak something? That's why. We are specific, and we keep it very clear, and we keep it to it, not about them as a person. And we're not vague. Because, guys, you got to own the subtext, the I'm fine statements, or it's fine, it's okay, don't worry about it, are laden with things like, I'm really feeling disappointed that you didn't think I may have needed help with the kitchen cleanup tonight. People are going to sense in your being that something's just off. It's not right. You're not telling them the complete truth. You're not being emotionally honest. So own the subtext. Don't put that on other people. That makes it really emotionally unsafe, I think. So along with being vulnerable, and I think this is another aspect of vulnerability, is be assertive. You've heard me say there's passive-aggressive stuff, there's jackass, and then there's assertive in the middle. We don't need to act out. We don't need to hang on the cross. We just need to be in the middle. and stand in our truth. Being assertive, I think, is so misunderstood for aggressiveness or bossiness or selfishness. It's not. Being assertive means be kind, but be firm. Don't be wishy-washy. Don't change your tune once you notice that maybe they don't like what you're asking for. And don't also put it on them to rescue you for having to stand in your truth. Get clear with you first. Get some affirmation from others around you, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with what you're asking for. You deserve to ask for that. All that stuff before you make this request. You have to be clear with your truth first. So what does being assertive really look like? We've talked about this before, but I just want to reiterate, it means good eye contact. You're not avoiding, you're not looking down at the floor, you're not looking around the room. You are trying to connect with them, and you're being genuine, you're being honest, and you're being open, and you're being serious, and you're being confident. You're not playing around. Now, you're not wound up so tight, hopefully after the first 5 or 10 times that you learn how to do this. Because at first, yes, you're going to be very anxious, and that's okay. But we want to practice being more serene and calm. If we have anxiety, if we have anger, we should work through that first before we open our mouth, okay? Because how approachable and confident do you look to the other person? If you're not sure, ask people close to you what they think. Try to people watch and notice and emulate what you see other people do, where you feel calm around them. Make sure you have confident posture and body language. You're not crossing your arms, you're not rolling your eyes, you're not tapping your foot, you're not doing teenager stuff. You're not doing adolescent behavior. I know it sounds harsh, but think about it. Notice your own behavior in the next 2 weeks and see what you come up with. When you're pissed, when you're frustrated, when you're stressed out. Not when you're in a great mood, but when it's hard to be grounded. Focus on the problem solving, not the problem and not the person. Okay, assertiveness means we clarify, we help diffuse emotions, we focus on problem solving, and don't take the bait if they're trying to manipulate you, okay? Just really clarify. So, for example, if someone's really acting out and they're like, you probably don't want to help me, but this is really pissing me off. Don't take the bait of you probably don't want to help me. Teflon it back. So you really don't think that I want to help you. What's that about? You want to let me know? There's no snarky in my voice when I'm saying that. I'm genuinely saying, wow, so you really think I won't help you. And that's A or B, right? A is they're just manipulating and being disgusting and being nasty. And that's not true about you at all. Or there have been times where they actually felt like maybe you didn't want to help in the past. So we want them to clarify. Here comes the boundary work. That's about them. They think that. They are struggling with that if it's genuinely true. If it's not, you just hand it back. Try not to take the bait. Avoid exaggerations. Keep it honest. Keep it true. Not, you're a complete jerk. Instead, I just really need you to be more careful when you drive. And stick to the facts. Don't try to assault their character. If you really want them to change who they are, that's a different conversation that you may never have, right? You have to have one with yourself first. Like, whoa, what's going on here? Being assertive means taking responsibility for yourself and solving your own problems, okay? You don't act out. You don't blow up. You don't fall apart. You own what you think, what you feel, what you need, and what you need to do to take care of yourself. What boundaries do you need to set? What do you need to ask for? What do you need to negotiate out with them? Be firm and direct. Don't use innuendo. Don't be vague, and don't be passive. Don't blame the other person. Take responsibility for your feelings. Try not to spew that at them. You're not ready to maybe talk about this yet because you're still too upset. You're going to be a little less rational. You know that. When you're assertive, you have no desire to be a victim. You're not here just to beat them up and to let them know how much they hurt you. You're not ready to negotiate if that's what you're doing. That's a whole different session. You can express your needs and your feelings relatively calmly and easily. We don't do perfect here. But if there's not a lot of attached to it still, you know what I mean, then the other person maybe can hear that this is just your truth. This is about you. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You're confident about who you are, what you think and what you need and what you feel, and what you want. Also, a big aspect of assertiveness means we realize they have the same rights as we do. So you're also working on being able to hear someone's request, someone's feelings about you, what you did that pissed them off or hurt them. That's hard, guys. That's hard. We need to learn how to also hear that non-defensively and affirm it for them. If we want them to do that for us, then we certainly need to work on being able to do that for them. Maybe not in the moment. Maybe you go back a day later and say, I am so sorry. You had every right to ask me that. And I don't think I took it well. But I want you to know I thought about it and I really see your point. And yes, you're right. I was not behaving well the other day. Being assertive means you focus on the solution, not the other person. You keep your opinions about them to yourself. Remember, that's about them. What you think about them is your stuff. You focus on equal rights and equal responsibilities. You have a right to say yes or no. You're in a place of choice. They're in a place of choice. So one of the things we have to be able to work on in order to be assertive and to negotiate things is to be able to detach. If you're not familiar with the concept of detachment, go back to earlier episodes on that. What I've taught is a lot of times initially, when we want something or need something or we're frustrated with the other person, we focus on them. And we focus on their process. If they would just get home on time, if they would just pick up their socks, their process of how they figure something out, how they solve a problem, how they get from A to B is none of our business. We certainly don't want someone up in our process now, do we? It's very vulnerable. There's a lot that goes into that. Picking up your socks means maybe you have to work on being a grown-up. Maybe you have to love yourself more. Maybe you have to work on self-discipline. That's some really vulnerable stuff. So what I teach is bottom line it. Peel off their process of how they can make this happen on their end, and that's none of your damn business, and figure out what is your bottom line. I just need the socks off the floor. I just need you to come home on time. Don't focus on how they figure things out, what they truly want and need, what they have to struggle through, change, or sacrifice in order to be able to meet your need. That is their business. Observe, but don't absorb and don't react, because then you're trying to control and change them. And when we are presented with control, what do? We rebel oftentimes. We get defensive. We turn it back on the other person. It doesn't solve anything. And you could be dead on and right, and it doesn't matter. Unless and until, just like you, they decide they're ready. They've been hit by a 6x6. They're ready to see the light. This is their bottom. They're ready to change. They're ready to do something different. Nothing different's going to happen. Just because you want them to be different doesn't mean they're ready to be. Separate it out, detach. Just because you doesn't mean they. You have to grieve that they can't already do this, that their socks are still on the floor. We're not going to get through negotiating, being super emotional and focused on trying to change them. Detachment means we got to work on our boundaries, doing the who owns what. Work on our detachment so that we can give them our bottom line. I just need to know you can make dinner 3 nights a week. I'd be happy to make dinner the other nights. I just need you to know I can't drive you there anymore. I would like to talk about our money situation. Figure out what the bottom line is. What is your boundary, basically, right? How do you keep you in a place of choice and them in a place of choice, like we've been talking about? How do you figure out, what do I need to feel okay? What is my boundary? What is my yes? What is my no? How do I honor myself while trying to also honor the other person? For example, your partner likes to roll in late because they have a hard time with self-discipline. Okay, that is one of their struggles. And before you judge, I want you to think about your own struggles right at this moment and how you really don't want other people's judgment either. Is their lateness causing problems for them? Absolutely. Not just with you, but other areas of their life. That's not yours to fix. But put yourself in their shoes for a moment. Do you want to be reprimanded when you come in the door? Do you want to be parented? Do you want to be shamed? No. So you want for them to have freedom, trying to honor them, honor their freedom to figure it out, whatever works for them, so that they can possibly want to come home on time, if they even want to do that. You're just letting them know about you, keeping yourself in a place of choice. If you roll in late, I can't hold dinner. It makes me eat really late at night. I really don't want to do that. And it just causes me stress and resentment. So, if you can't get home on time, dinner's in the fridge. I'd love to eat with you, but I can't keep doing this. We got to figure something else out. You're leaving them in a place of choice. Maybe they don't want to come home on time. Okay. But don't bear out their consequences by holding dinner for an hour. That's crazy. Unless you really want to. Better to take care of you. What works for you? What feels good enough for you? Not perfect. Perfect and ideal would be they will come home on time and you could have what you want, which is to have dinner with them. Detach, let them choose, keep yourself in a place of choice as well. The other thing that we don't talk about enough, and John Gottman, the relationship guru, has done a lot of research on this, and years later, I think he's right. We start our relationships by throwing 20s in that bank account. We let them know exactly what we think of them. We do things for them. We pay a lot of attention to them and the relationship. We really invest a lot. But after a while, you get complacent. You're like, they know how I feel about them. Of course they know I care. Well, guess what? His theory is, the brain is wired for negativity. It may forget how you really feel about them, what you think of them lately, because we haven't been telling them. It's those little pennies in the bank account. He says, every day when you tell your partner or your best friend, hey, I really care about you, really appreciate you, thank you for helping me this week. I love our relationship because I think you're a really great person. You have so much integrity. These are the things I love about you. He says what happens when we're sleeping is there's a hole in that bank account and it's draining. So then when we get to asking for what we need or a possible conflict, there's the, oh shit, they don't even care about how I feel, is what they're thinking, because they don't know how you feel. We got to build the relationship. We got to connect better at all the other moments outside of trying to negotiate something out with them. Because when people believe themselves worthy of connection, they're more likely to move towards you. Okay? And you're more likely to move towards them. Some of this could be self-esteem work that one might have to do. Because you're going to say things like, I love you, I miss you. Maybe I miss you because you've been gone, or I miss you because we haven't connected a lot lately. Show your love, show your affection, show your compassion. Allow them to influence you in healthy ways. Like, hey, you have a really good point there. Didn't think about that. Show concern, show care, and show interest. Show them that you see them as a unique individual, not just someone to meet your needs. And I know that sounds horrible, but we can all get lazy. And we can get pretty egocentric sometimes. But this is important. Work on building relationships. Stephen Covey talked a lot about that too. That way, when you do really need to say no, when you do need to ask for change in their behavior, they already know what you think about them. They feel good enough about their relationship with you. There's trust and safety there. Because whether we realize it or not, every time someone talks to you, they're sizing you up. They're thinking about who you are, where you might be coming from, and most importantly, how they think you feel about them. This is really going to impact our responses, and it's something that we don't talk about enough. We get lazy, we get reactive, we only connect when there's a fire to be put out kind of thing. We don't do a lot of proactive and preventative maintenance in our relationships. Some of us are much better than others. I know it's something that I always have to be mindful of and work on. I can get so caught up and busy that I forget to let people in my life know how amazing I think they really are, because I have some amazing people in my life, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So today we talked about just how important it is to be able to detach, to have good boundaries, to be able to connect assertively and with emotional honesty and genuine caring. Caring about yourself and caring about them. Good communication means no manipulation, no acting out, no emotional immaturity, and it means focusing on a mutually beneficial interaction if at all possible. It's really about what you're willing and not willing to do, and the focus is not on them as a person. So if you struggle to negotiate, you may want to look at those components that we talked about today and start working on them. And I think you're going to find it's going to make it a little easier. Thank you so much for joining me today. May you be healthy and grounded. Keep focusing on the good in yourself and find some good in the world this week. Focus on your relationships. Tell people how much you care about them and what you really appreciate about them as a person. Be sure to check the show notes at ownitpowercast.com. If you don't already get the newsletter, it's a great way to hear the episode, read the blog, and get any news that is out, as well as any bonus downloads that are included in the episodes. So, pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you could begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.